Heavy physical work as a loader means that in a single day, tons of different cargo pass through your hands. Because of this, you are forced to eat well, of course. But then there is fasting. What should you do?
So, those who eat meat, predators, are not as strong as elephants, bulls, heavy oxen, and horses that do not eat meat. They do not eat meat, and we know what kind of loads an elephant can carry and what a dog can carry. The difference is obvious. Therefore, if someone believes that physical strength comes from meat, they are deeply mistaken. In Egypt, at one time, and even now, it is possible to harvest 3 crops a year. We read in ancient writings that Egyptians practically did not eat meat, fish, and even that rarely. Yet harvesting 3 times a year and caring for the fields all year round is hard work, and their climate is hot. So where did the strength come from? There was a culture. They ate grains, but only sprouted grains. Sprouted grains. We know what that is. Anyone who has dealt with them knows that it is real strength, incredibly powerful energy. So that is one of the options. Therefore, for example, you can't make cabbage soup only from water and cabbage. That's obvious. For example, take birch wood and oak firewood. Try tapping a birch and an oak with an axe. Then cut the tree down, pull it out of the forest, maybe with the help of a horse, but it still has to be dragged out. Then trim all the branches and saw it like this. Chainsaws didn't appear in the Stone Age, and then all of it has to be split into logs. Nowadays, people don't even know how to split wood. Pictures show it, but I know how they split it with wedges and splitting mauls. It was very hard, and yet they managed everything. They plowed the land, literally plowed it, pouring sweat as they went behind the plow. They worked with the plow and mowed at night, because during the day it was impossible. With so much hay for the livestock, and they harvested grain with a sickle. I can't even describe physically how hard it was. Bent over in the heat, doubled up like hooks, walking across the fields, and they observed all the fasts. They observed every fast, even during the summer harvest season. I once asked old people, "What about meat?" They answered, "What kind of worker would you be if you ate meat during the harvest?" I asked, "How so?" They said, "There was no time to cook. We ate cold food." What kind of cold food? Things like okrushka and botvanya. And for flavor, herbs. Why not? Sour cream, eggs. But when I say this today, I mean real eggs, not store-bought eggs with a black fake yolk. And not that coloring substance like goat glue that for some reason is called milk, from which people get poisoned, and even cats refuse to eat it. They didn't consume such things back then. They would have been disgusted by it. Back then it didn't even exist. I'll say more. It simply couldn't exist if things were normal. Milk was milk. Sour cream was sour cream. An egg was a real egg. That's why my ancestors, whom I know about, were physically strong people. My ancestors worked as barge haulers on the Volga.
Our energetic brother Sergei Zhigulin writes, "Yes, Father, you are right. This year I planted 200 square meters of wheat and 200 square meters of oats. I harvested it by hand. When I think that our ancestors harvested entire fields, it makes me shudder. Entire fields, absolutely true."
This is a very vivid illustration, and he is speaking about only one detail. But besides sowing grain, and a lot of it, there was also firewood all year round, house repairs, building houses, helping young people and children build homes. And families didn't have 1 or 2 children, on average 6. Statistics say that means helping 6 children build houses, and that is physical labor. And the logs they used were not like the poorly cut ones today. The logs were so big you couldn't just throw one on your shoulder. They were serious, even more serious than these today. probably 1.5 times bigger. And every day started the same way. In summer or winter, on holidays or workdays, there were animals to care for. Everyone went to the barn, cleaning manure, giving water to the livestock, driving them out, bringing feed, physical labor. And in winter you stepped outside after a snowstorm and had to clear paths through the snow. My grandmother told me that first they made paths in autumn, but in winter, she said, they didn't shovel the snow anymore. I asked, "Grandma, how did you walk then?" She said, "Through the tunnels we made." Can you imagine what they invented? Tunnels through the snow. There was that much snow, and they still had to deal with it, and they didn't complain. That's the point. Today, we want to drink some water or tea. We turn on the tap, switch on the electric kettle. But before, you took a yoke and lightly ran to the river, carrying wooden buckets back on your shoulders. Now people say, electric kettles. No, coffee machines. You press a button and everything happens by itself. Then you ask someone, please bring it. But physically life was much harder. Yet here are the words of my other grandmother, from my mother's side. I said to her, "You worked so hard." She replied, "Yes, we worked, but we also sang songs, danced in circles, laughed. Even adults played laughter." She said life somehow felt joyful. It was easy, joyful, and fun. And today we hear people say they have lost the meaning of life, that there is sadness in their soul, that phobias arise. Why? Because instead of real work, they sit on the couch suffering, saying their job is hard, sitting in a chair at the bank. Work can be hard even when sitting in a chair. There can be mental stress and psychological pressure. That's true. But physical labor itself is necessary for a person. God originally made man this way. If we do not physically exert ourselves, we begin to degrade as human beings.